Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 713. 713, March the 6th, 2019, Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course it is Wednesday. Of course that's the night that I take out the trash and I have chicken or pasta. Actually tonight I'm having chicken and pasta. Thank you so much for tuning in. Here we go. Now, before I get into today's news, just let me recap the end of yesterday's video because I cut it off a couple minutes early and didn't finish with Dumbasses of the Week. Yes, we did get to the winner, which was Amy Klobuchar, winning Dumbass of the Week, but I cut off the video before I could tell you who came in second and third. So, it looks like we had for the second week in a row, we had a two-way tie for second place. It looks like we had, Pam Northam and Michael Cohen tied for second place for Dumbass of the Week. Pam Northam and Michael Cohen tied for second place, and Commie Bernie, takes third place for Dumbass of the Week. So there you go. That was Dumbass of the Week. Klobuchar first, tie for second between Cohen and Northam, and Bernie takes third place. There you go, Dumbass of the Week. Finally got it right and got it finished. Okay, now, let's get to the news of the day. Well, so today was pretty interesting. We had a couple things happen. We had the Rotten Reverend Clinton, along with Michael Bloomberg and Eric Holder, all coming out and announcing they're not running. So, first of all, on the Rotten Reverend Clinton, you've got to watch the Clintons very carefully. You have to parse every single word they say because you've got to know what the definition of is. So when you analyze the Rotten Reverend Clinton, she says she's not running. And guess what? Currently, she's not running. But she didn't say that she is not going to run. And the question that she was asked actually was, have you shut the door 100%? She never responded to that. She only said, I'm not running. But I'm going to continue to do speeches and raise money and all these other things. I am 100% sure that the Rotten Reverend Clinton wants to run, has every intention of running. Now, whether or not the big donors of the corporate Democratic Party, talk her out of it, is always possible. But believe me, the Rotten Reverend Clinton has every intention of running a game. Now, the fact that she's out there saying she's not running, that's part of the plot, you see. She's going to say she's not running. That way, when the fake draft Hillary campaign starts, she can say, oh, gee, I don't want to run. I don't want to run. She wants to make it look like people are begging her to run. And she will make sure to put her machine into gear and to make sure that that's all happening so that it looks like she's being asked to run. She's being told, oh, you have to run, Hillary. You're the only one who can save us from the Orange Man. And that's how she will try to play it. Now, it is possible that the big wigs at the corporate Democratic Party, the big donors who run the Democratic Party, may give her the thumbs down and may decide to go with someone else. That's always possible, that she could be treated that way. But right now, you're looking at Bernie. Biden has not thrown his hat in the ring. I think Biden is the ringer. I think Biden is the guy. If Biden can't do it, then I would have thought that it might be Eric Holder. But today he's saying he's not running. Okay, so if that's true, then we are looking at literally the Rotten Reverend Clinton or Joe Biden. Those would be the two top corporate Democrats. And then, of course, you got Bernie. Bernie is going to win the socialist vote, okay? All those people fighting for the far left, whether it's Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Pocahontas, whoever, all these people, they simply cannot raise the money Bernie can raise. They simply don't have the support. They don't have anything that Bernie's got. Bernie's got all the lefties locked up, pretty much. And if the corporate Democrats do not come up with someone who can beat him, he'll likely win the nomination. They'll try to stop him but it will be very hard. You can't stop him with nothing. Maybe the corporate Democratic Party don't believe that the rotten Reverend Clinton can stop him unless she cheats, which they'd be perfectly willing to do, by the way. They have every intention of cheating Bernie out of the nomination, whether they try it again with the rotten Reverend Clinton or whether they do it with Biden. But either way, someone with some serious name recognition and the ability to raise a lot of money has to jump in there and take on Bernie. And it's none of the second-tier people that we see. It's going to have to be either the rotten Reverend Clinton or Biden, or else there's someone else out there whose name has not come up yet that they're going to toss into the mix. Maybe John Kerry, who knows? But it doesn't look like to me in the Democratic Party that it's the year of the white guy. It doesn't look like it's the year of the guy at all. And it appears to me that to get the Democratic nomination, you have to go really hard to the left. And when you do that, you essentially ruin your chances in the general election. So this is the problem that the Democrats have. They need someone who can appeal enough to enough lefties to knock out Bernie, but still be able to dash back to the center in the general and look like they're sane. And that's going to be a very difficult thing to do. Again, the rotten Reverend Clinton says she's not running. I still will not believe she's not running until the deadline comes for filing and she's not there. When the deadline comes and she's not there, then I'll believe that she's not running. But I know that she, A, wants to run, and B, she's doing everything that you do if you are going to run. She never stopped raising money. A week after she lost, she was setting up an organization to raise money. She has multiple organizations raising lots of money. She's out there staying in the news every single week. She's somewhere making a speech, staying in the game. And I have every reason to believe that she has every intention of running. And she might be getting some pushback from the corporate Democrats, who, quite honestly, maybe don't believe she has any chance at all of beating Trump. And they're right. But they have to stop Bernie. That's their number one cause. Even if they lose to Trump, which they probably assume they're going to, they have to stop Bernie. And that would be the corporate Democrats, the people who run that party. And so they need someone who can take out Bernie. And it's not going to be someone else who's just as far to the left as he is or is trying to be the left. They're going to have to go with someone more to the center, or someone perceived as being more to the center, or just your standard liberal Democrat, like a Biden, or a neocon type neo-liberal like Hillary. So we'll see what they do, but they're in a real pickle, obviously. But I'll believe the rotten Reverend Clinton is not running when the deadline comes and she's not in it. Until then, I still believe I know she wants to run, and I still believe she will. As far as Holder, I don't know. Who knows? And Michael Bloomberg doesn't surprise me. Michael Bloomberg, he doesn't need the job. He doesn't want the job, really. So I never really thought he would throw his hat in the ring. I still think the wild card here is this Howard Schultz guy, the guy who was the CEO of Starbucks. I mean, he's still out there making some appearances. He's getting, taking a lot of heat from a lot of Democrats, but in a way, I think he doesn't care. He's rich. He doesn't care. He's kind of marches to the beat of his own drum sort of person. You can tell when you watch his interviews. He's kind of a sane Democrat, I guess you'd say. But he's just not in with the party, and I think that that's why he would run as an independent. If he runs as an independent, then that's the Democratic Party would be split, and because he would get probably 8 or 10% maybe, enough to doom the Democrats for sure. So we'll have to see. Maybe he's waiting for the Democrats to come to him, and that would be a very interesting move for them to go to Howard Schultz and say, hey, please come in and save our party. Don't run as an independent, come and run as a Democrat, and we'll put the entire party establishment behind you. You got to beat Bernie. We got to take out Bernie. So they're waiting for somebody. Again, I think they would like Biden, but maybe he hasn't decided to do it. And then they look at Clinton and maybe go, gosh, I don't know if we can do Clinton again. Let's try to find someone else. So I think that probably that's where it is. They want Biden. Hillary would be an absolute last resort. If Biden doesn't do it, they'll probably try to find someone else. And if they can't get anyone else, Hillary will be the default. They've got to find someone who can move and put themselves out there as a centrist to stop Bernie. That's the number one goal for the Democrats. Stop Bernie. Alrighty, let's move on. Well, it appears, as many of you heard yesterday, it was all over the news. Marty Feldman eyes Cortez. Appears that she may be in some serious trouble with violating campaign finance law. She's, of course, denying this. It appears that she set up a multi-million-dollar slush fund and that she's hiding contributions. That's what it looks like. Now, her and her chief of staff set this up. Her chief of staff is, of course, this Saikat Chakrabarty. They set up these deals where they had these PACs, political action committees, which were taking in money, then giving the money to LLCs, and then that money was finding its way into the campaign of Cortez and some other questionable transfers of money, such as to her boyfriend and others. So there's a lot of issues here, and it appears that that Cortez was not just out on the outside on this, that she was actually the chair of one of these LLCs, and that means that she would have been in the know, and it also means that she would have certainly been the person in control, or one of the people in control over the PAC. And of course, this was never discussed. She's never mentioned this. She's never disclosed this to the FEC, which she would be obligated to do. So it looks like there's something going on here. A report has been made to the FEC. What's interesting is where this tip come from. You gotta wonder. Did this tip come from Republicans? I'm kind of thinking not. If you're the Republican Party, the best thing that ever happened to you is Ocasio-Cortez. Why would you want to get rid of her? I'd want to keep her out there as much as possible and keep her talking. So you got to wonder where the tip came from, who ratted her out. And I'm not so sure it's not one of the Democrats. Remember, she just went after a bunch of so-called moderate Democrats or centrist Democrats, those who are not far-left Democrats, for not going along with the far-left agenda. She's also ticked off Pelosi. She's ticked off some other people, some senior Democrat politicians who've been around a long time. And I think it's just as likely that the tip came from a Democrat, probably as much as it is a Republican. If you're a Republican or a Republican organization, why would you want to shut down Ocasio-Cortez? I would want to do as much as possible to get as much publicity for her as I possibly could. I want her out there talking every day. You don't want her put in the closet or taken out. The only people who would want her put in the closet or taken out would be Democrats. But there appears to be some serious issues here. Obviously, campaign finance law is kind of complicated, but there are lawyers who specialize in it. Her chief of staff is a very wealthy dude. He certainly would have the money and the lawyers to know whether or not this is right or wrong. Now, Ocasio-Cortez could plead stupid, and everyone would believe her. She could say, oh, I had no idea. I was just told to do this, do that, and I did it. I didn't know. She could probably plead stupid and get away with a fine. But if what's being alleged is true, the way this was done tells you that this wasn't accidental. This was purposely set up to try to avoid disclosing this to the FEC. And the fact that Cortez is not just a person who received funds, but is also on the board of the organization that donated money to her. She donated money to herself through this group. You can't do that. So certainly this man, Mr. Chakrabarty, would know that. He would know that. His lawyers would know that. He didn't set this stuff up by himself. He had attorneys, and they understood what they were dealing with here. Federal election laws. This was all set up to raise money, to donate money for presidential campaigns, political campaigns, congressional campaigns. That's what this is. That's what this is all about. So there's no way you could have these conversations with your lawyers setting up these organizations and not have the lawyer advise you as to what you cannot and cannot do or whatever. They would know who the partners are. This should have sent a red flag up with the law firm who set this up when they saw Cortez's name here. And they said, oh, you got Cortez on here as a head of one of these groups, and she's receiving money from that group. Well, you can't do that. So I don't know who dropped the ball here, whether this is, they just thought they could get away with it, or I don't know. It's hard to explain. This is just purely as ignorance, because we're not, yeah, Cortez is an idiot, but her chief of staff is not, nor are his lawyers, or the people who set this stuff up. They do this. This is what they do. So I'm not sure how she's going to get out of this. Yeah, if what is being reported is true, clearly it's a campaign violation, and that can carry big fines and this type of thing. If they can prove you purposely did this knowingly to hide campaign contributions, that's a big fine and could be some jail time, depending on the nature of this and what they knew and what their intent was and all that sort of thing. So we'll have to keep following this story, but this is not going to go away, I don't think. This is going to have to be investigated. It's already been turned over to the FEC. They will investigate it. So we'll find out, but my experience with the FEC is that, sometimes they get you, sometimes they don't. Now, they hit Obama with a huge fine for FEC violations, but they let the Rotten Reverend slide on a bunch of violations. So it just depends on who you are. I'm not really sure how that works out, but we'll see, because just from what we know now, there's obviously campaign violations here. We'll find out exactly how serious this is and that type of thing. But I guess the most interesting part of this story to me is where the tip came from. Well, Mad Max, we haven't heard from Mad Maxine Waters in a while, but she just went off on a major Twitter rant yesterday and dropped like 5 Twitter rants, and each one just as crazy as the next. And the bottom line from all those rants that she put out on Twitter, the bottom line is that she's asking, is Trump still in love with Kim Jong-un? And she's still calling for his impeachment. So she's still off the hook and nutty, calling his meeting with Kim Jong-un fake. The fake summit with Kim Jong-un. What? I don't know if it was fake. I'm pretty sure it happened. So Mad Max is unhinged. She's been quiet for a while, but she's back, obviously, to her crazy old self. Shouldn't surprise us. And let's see. Oh, yeah, here's a funny story. Back to Ocasio-Cortez. It appears that her mother, Blanco Ocasio-Cortez, left New York for Florida to move to Florida, she says, because the taxes were too high in New York. Ocasio-Cortez's mother moves out of New York because the taxes are too high. And where does she go? To a low-tax state, Florida. That is hilarious. But if her daughter has her way, she'll raise her taxes down there in Florida too, Mama. That's very, very good. Ocasio-Cortez's mother moves to Florida to avoid high taxes in New York. Man, I'll tell you what a beauty. What a beauty. Now, here's something that's pretty interesting that I've heard many people talking about. It was just a small news story yesterday. So Andrew McCabe is doing a interview. Andy is doing an interview. And in that interview, he's asked about the dossier and the FISA warrants and all this stuff. And he goes into full defense mode on the dossier. Oh, yeah. McCabe in full defense mode on the dossier. Remember, he told Congress that no dossier, no FISA warrant. So what can we read into this? Why is McCabe out there totally defending the dossier? In the interview he did with 60 Minutes, it never even came up. He hasn't been talking about the dossier. But in this particular interview, the dossier comes up. And he goes on to basically try to give it credibility. And say, oh yeah, the dossier, yeah, that was important. The information in there, it was used to launch investigations, get FISA warrants, had to be investigated. There were serious allegations there. Came from a credible source, a former MI6 agent who had a good track record, credibility with the U.S. government. We had to take it seriously. And this is the whole story he's sitting there putting out. Now, of course, he knows now that the entire dossier has been debunked. It's total bullshit. But why is McCabe coming out and defending the dossier? Well, I'll tell you. I think it's because he knows that we're getting pretty close to the point where it's just going to come out. It's already pretty well known because Nunes has tried every way in the world to tell us that without actually coming out and telling us that he knows that because of what he's learned in these hearings, these closed-door hearings. Remember, Nunes has these closed-door hearings as head of the House Intelligence Committee. He's not allowed to disclose specific things that he gets from that. But he's been doing everything possible to give us those insinuations. He's been saying for the longest time that all they had was a dossier. He's not getting specific about where he got that, or even very specific about that point. Just saying in almost an offhanded fashion over and over again for the past year almost that all they had was the dossier. And I think that Devin Nunes knows that all they had was the dossier. That's it. You know, Comey says, oh, we had this wide, I forget what word he used, but he said that they had all this, a mosaic. Comey said they had a mosaic of information. And they keep trying to waffle around. Then they tried to go to the Papadopoulos Downer thing. That didn't work. And they had to go back to the dossier. They keep coming back to the dossier because they know ultimately that was it. And this is what Nunes is trying to get out. And it is going to come out, and we're getting very close, and I think McCabe knows that. So do all the other players. They know that they're getting very close to the point. We're within probably weeks, maybe just a few months away from it finally being proven, without a shadow of a doubt, that there was nothing else. All they had was the dossier. And they had 5 dossiers, but they all said basically the same thing. And all the information was basically the same. Carter Page, Manafort, Michael Cohen involved in, with the Russians to do this deal for Trump so they could work together to steal the election, steal the Clinton's emails, give them to WikiLeaks, the whole 9 yards. This is, of course, accusing Carter Page of getting this huge payout from these Russians who he'd never even met. 2 of the 3 he didn't even know. Michael Cohen went to Prague. He never went to Prague. Papadopoulos, it was, of course, we know that was all setups and frame-ups. They know they got nothing but the dossier. And that's why they're coming out now and having to defend it. And they will try to defend the dossier because it's going to come out that that is what they had. And then it's all going to come down to, the dossier. And then it's all the focus will go on the dossier. And all roads lead from the dossier back to the rotten Reverend Clinton. That's where it all ends up. The rotten Reverend Clinton. So just an interesting note there. McCabe defending the dossier. There's a reason for that. It's because that's exactly what they used to do everything. There was nothing else. Then we had Jerry Nadler coming out on CNN, and after being pressed on it, said, well, there really is no evidence that Trump obstructed justice. It's just my opinion. Just his opinion. Right. Well, here's something for you. It appears that Sarah Carter has either been given some new information or she's gone back and looked at some older information. I'm not sure which. But she's now talking about a particular thing with the FISA warrant on Carter Page in regards to Loretta Lynch. Get back, Loretta! So we have Loretta Lynch in hearings telling congressional investigators that she could not recall anything about the Carter Page FISA warrant and the 3 renewals. She says that she wasn't involved in the process and doesn't recall even being briefed. And so if you look at the questions that Sarah Carter has, obviously the transcript, and you can see where I think it was Mark Meadows and one other person were pressing her, must ask her a dozen different ways about her knowledge of the FISA warrant on Carter Page in every way, shape, or form that she could. And in that Q&A, she basically said she could not remember or could not recall anything about Carter Page, FISA warrants, can't remember the Carter Page FISA warrant, doesn't remember reading anything about it, couldn't recall anything about it. It's like she goes total amnesia on Carter Page FISA warrant. She gets complete total amnesia. Now, this shouldn't surprise us because we saw her in open hearings, and if you remember, in open hearings, she answered more than 100 and I think it was 118 times, but don't quote me on that. It was over 100 times. She said she either could not recall or could not remember. Can't recall or remember anything. But as Sarah Carter points out, There is a declassified memo that shows that Lynch met with Comey, McCabe, Strzok. She met with Comey, McCabe, and Strzok to discuss the Carter Page FISA warrant, and also whether to alert Trump about Carter Page, and of course they decided against it. So here she's telling Congress over and over again, in every which way they could ask, that she has no recollection at all of anything having to do with Carter Page FISA warrant. Nothing. Yet, she was definitely in this meeting, because they have the declassified memo of her, McCabe, and Strzok discussing the Carter Page FISA, and also whether to inform President Trump about Carter Page. And keep in mind, at the time when all this is going on, they've already launched the investigations into Trump, and apparently Sessions and Carter Page. They already had the first FISA on Carter Page, probably working on Papadopoulos, Michael Flynn. They're trying to set up Caputo and Stone, Mr. Greenberg and all his friends. This is all happening at the time that these hearings are going on. Very, very difficult to believe Lynch. In fact, let's just say what it is. She's lying. She's lying. Period. She learned that from the Clintons. Yes, Loretta Lynch is the linchpin. If you get everyone else from below Loretta Lynch, you keep it to within the second tier. But when you get Loretta Lynch, that puts you into the Obama administration, into the White House. That's the difference. Attorney General William Barr will not recuse himself from the Mueller witch hunt. Why should he? He's not doing anything about it anyway. He's like Jeff Sessions 2.0. He's like Rodenstein 2.0. I see no action coming from Barr at all. Here's some good news. Trump has shut down the NSA's phone surveillance program. This is the one that Edward Snowden, it was the big one. After Edward Snowden fled the country and released his information, the big thing that everybody was talking about of what he released was this program that they have where they essentially collect all of our data and all the phone surveillance. They collect every phone call and store every phone call, not just the metadata, everything. And that's what Edward Snowden told us. Well, that program has now been shut down. That NSA program has now been shut down by Trump. Fantastic. Fantastic. Now shut down some more of that crap. In fact, I would just get rid of the FBI, the NSA, and the CIA, and all the other agencies and start completely over. Start completely over. They're all completely corrupted and cannot be saved. Abolish them all and start over. And get rid of the FISA court, and it should never, ever return. Ever. It's totally unconstitutional. 54%, according to a Gallup poll, 54% approve of Trump's handling of the economy. 54% approve of Trump's handling of the economy. Gallup poll. Doesn't say whether it's likely voters, registered voters, or whatever. Don't know. But usually there's about a 3 to 5 point spread there. But either way, it's still over 50% approve of Trump's handling of the economy. Of course they do. Why shouldn't they? Who are the 46% who don't? What the hell's wrong with them? What economy are they talking about? They're Democrats. Here's a good one. Clapper, for some reason, is now saying that he didn't lie when he was asked a question about collecting data on all Americans. He's saying that he did not understand the question. He didn't understand the question. That's strange. Because I remember that interaction there with Wyden. It was about a 10-minute Q&A. There was Clapper, Mike Rogers, Rodenstein, and McCabe sitting there being questioned. And they had been talking about this subject the entire time that Wyden was asking questions. That's what he was talking about. They were on topic the whole time. So I don't know how Clapper could say he didn't understand the question. He definitely understood the topic. And he definitely understood because Wyden made it perfectly clear. He said, I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. I'm trying to get to one answer. I'm trying to understand one answer. And he went down the whole line of them. Uncle Bob the Executioner was there as well, sitting right next to Clapper. Why is that? Because he was the FBI director at the time. He was the FBI director at that time. The question that Wyden asked was this, exactly, quote, does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans? Is that a difficult question to understand? Seems like a very clear question to me, especially since Wyden had spent 10 minutes trying to get to that and made it perfectly clear that's exactly what he was trying to get to. Let me ask it again. Think about this for a second. How difficult is it to understand what this question is asking you? If I said to you, and you were the head of the NSA, and I said, does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans? Does the NSA collect data on any type of data on millions of Americans? It's a very simple question. If you remember, Clapper said, no. Well, maybe inadvertently, but not wittingly. And you knew he was lying. You could look at his face. Wyden knew he was lying when he asked the question. That's why he was surprised and said, huh? Because Wyden already knew the answer to the question. He knows that the NSA is collecting and holding data on every damn electronic communication that's sent in the damn country and probably around the world, but certainly inside the country. Any calls certainly coming into the country, and all calls that happen within the country, all being collected. And we know that. Wyden knew it when he asked the question, and Clapper lied. Period. He just can't admit he's a liar, but he is. And you also notice something when you watch that clip. I remember, because Mueller had his hands out on the table quite a bit, and he put his hands up to his face a few times. And we're told he's married. His wife goes to Bible study with Mr. Barr's wife. Kind of strange, though, when you look at Uncle Bob's hands, because he doesn't have a wedding ring on a single finger. He has no rings on any fingers. None. Most people, he was in the military, would have his military ring. He's married. He should have a wedding ring. No rings whatsoever on the hands of Robert Mueller. Uncle Bob the Executioner. No rings. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Don't know if it means anything, but, it's out there. It's true. Look at it. So, yeah, Clapper lied. He knew he was lying when he lied. You could look at his face and tell he knew he was lying as he was lying. Wyden knew he was lying. Everybody knew he was lying. And so he lied to Congress. And, I guess the statute of limitations has maybe run out on that. I don't really know. But he got away with it. And we know he was lying. Period. Thanks to Edward Snowden. So, anyway, that's what we have going on. And I don't think there's anything else. I think I covered everything. Yeah, I think we covered everything today. So I think the most interesting story of the day, obviously, is one of two things. Either the fact that McCabe has given us some sort of a signal that we are nearing the end of the line for on Spygate, for them being able to make up excuses for why they launched these investigations. I think it's pretty obvious by what McCabe was given his vigorous defense of the dossier, and no one else is out there trying to do it lately. They've tried it 3 or 4 times. It always gets blown up. But you got McCabe out there vigorously defending it. So that tells me that he knows, and probably all these people know, that it's just a matter of time, and it's probably not far down the road, that we're going to learn that, just as Devin Nunes has been suggesting for a very long time, that dossier is all they had. And they went and got FISA warrants. They went and launched 5 investigations. The president and everyone else around him. Agent provocateurs and the campaign, setups, frame-ups, and all this other stuff. I'm telling you, my friends, they knew what the dossier was. They knew it was garbage when they did it. I'm telling you, there's a lot of problems coming for these people. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you then. Bye.